Welcome to all. So we are on our chapter number 2 of Indian economic development, in which we are going to study the Indian economy from the year 1950 to 1991. So this is the second phase of Indian economy. First phase was over in the Indian economy at the time of independence, or the eve of independence, and this is the time, the year 1950, when we started planning, and we moved to year 1991. From that year we can start our third phase, or we were started our third phase, which is called the reform era. So we are going to study second phase from the year 1950 to 1990. So these are the component which are parts which are going to cover in this chapter: long period goals of planning, short period goals of planning, features of economic policy pursued under planning till 1991, and the success achievement of planning and the failure of planning. So long term goals of the planning are GDP growth, growth in GDP. The all plan are the basically constructed for the growth of GDP. And second objective is full employment. All plan the country will achieve the full employment point. Third is equitable distribution of equity. The benefit of development is goes to the entire society of our country, or the entire section of our country, without any discrimination. Third is modernization of our industries or our country. We can use some new technology or techniques of production with help of these planning models. And the fourth goal is self sufficiency. We have to be self reliant on the various fronts of the various front of the our requirements. So these are the long period goals of planning. Or there are some short period goal which is important for the individual plan, which is highlighted in your slide. You can go through it. First plan is First plan higher agriculture production, the short term goal. Second is increase in industrial production. Third is need of self sufficiency of food grain. Fourth is price stability and further utilization of manpower. Fifth and sixth plan is elevation of poverty. Seventh plan is need for greater employment opportunities. Eighth plan full employment and universalization of education. Ninth plan growth, price stability and environment sustainability. 10th plan need of better quality of job. 11th poverty reduction, job creation, protection of environment. 12th need for sustainable as well as inclusive growth. So these are the plan oriented goals or short period goals, which is the basis of a, and the special emphasis was laid down over these objective in a particular plan. So this is the difference between the long period goals are same for each and every 5 year plan. Short period goals are changed for a certain plan. So then we move to feature of economic policy pursued under planning till 1991. It means the features which are generally shown in the policy which is practiced from the year 1950 to 1991. First is heavily reliance on public sector for GDP growth. It means for GDP growth, we are more dependent on the public sector. There is no scope, or the major scope is for public sector or government companies. Second, a regulated development of private sector to avoid concentration of economic power. It means private sector is there, but it is in the regulation of government, because of to avoid the concentration of economic power. Third is protection of small scale industry, regulation of large scale industry with view of maximizing the opportunities of employment. Small scale industries or small industries are protected from the competition, and regulation of large scale industries were carried out due to maximizing the opportunity of employment. It means government regulate the large scale industries and protect small scale industries for maximizing opportunity of employment. We can discuss it in small scale industries also. SSIs provide more employment in comparison of large scale. So the government of that time protect the small scale industries. Development of heavy industries for strategic significance. Heavy industries are developed, but those industries are developed which is strategically significant or important. It means just like steel industry, petroleum industry, these are developed mainly. Focus on saving and investment so the growth process becomes self-reliant. The government tried to promote saving and investment so the growth process is carried out without any disturbance. If the people saving and investing their savings, the process of industrialization is running without any hurdle. Protection from foreign competition so that the domestic industry does not lose the domestic market. This is also a type of protectionism, protect or the protection which is given by Indian government to our domestic countries to promote their development. Focus on import substitution so that the demand of foreign exchange is minimized. So it is practices due to decrease the import from other countries. But or we can study this policy under this chapter. Restricted on foreign capital so that the external debts are minimized. There is there are restriction imposed by Indian government to raise fund from the foreign investors. So so the burden of loans, foreign loans are be minimum in our economy. So centralized planning which view of monitoring the process of growth and development. The planning is centralized. It is done by the central government or the government of India for growth and development. So these are the feature. It means the Indian economy is majorly controlled by Indian government. There is no no the private sector is not playing a major role in our economy. So we are on success of planning achievements. What are the success which are getted by our economy from the year 1950 to 1991? Increase in national income. By this planning, the income in national income is increased. It also increased the per capita income, a rise in saving and investment. If the income is increases, there is increase in saving and investment also. Growth and diversification of industry. There is a various types of industry were set up or set up by government and the private sector also. Institutional and technical change in agriculture. Agriculture also witnessed some huge changes during this period of time, or we studied in our lower classes about green revolution. This is the period from 1950 to 1991, then our country having green revolution. Expansion of economic and social infrastructure. At that time the expansion of our infrastructure is also carried out in the both manner, economic or social. wider opportunities for employment. When the industrialization is carried out in a country, there is more possibility of employment generation. Expansion of international trade. Why the industrialization? There is increase in international trade. It means export and import of goods and services was increased. Then we move on the failures or certain limitation of policy pursued from the year 1950 to 1991. Abject poverty continued to characterize the Indian economy. It means the huge poverties existed in the economy from year 1950 to 1991. At present, we have poverty in our economy. Higher rate of inflation leading to fall in real income of population in real income of the people. So by this there is a huge inflation was took place during the policies practices from the year 1950 to 1991. It means the real income of the people is increases, but the monetary income is going to increase by the by the by the inflation. The value of income of the peoples are decreases, but monetary income is increase. Unemployment crisis continue exist, even opportunities of employment tended to rise. Explosive rise in population has been the principal cause. So unemployment is crisis is due to the explosive rise in the population. Is it is the feature or the failure of the planning. We developed our industries, or we generate the employment opportunities, but the rate of population growth is more than the rate of employment generation. So the unemployment crisis is started. Inadequate economic and social infrastructure. We constructed economic and social infrastructure, but it is not up to the mark for the population which is residing our country. Skewed distribution of income wealth leading to huge divide between rich and poor. The entire the development benefit is goes to the higher class of the society, and it is undistributed among the lower class or the higher class. The maximum benefit of the development and growth is goes to the richer class. So these are the failure of the planning. Then we move to the performance of agriculture industry and foreign trade during 1947 to 1990. So this is the important sector of the economy, as we studied in our first chapter, Indian economic development, because the huge population is dependent on agriculture for their livelihood. So we can discuss the policy in which we are going to discuss feature of Indian agriculture, problem of Indian agriculture, agrarian reforms, and achievement of agrarian reforms. So first we have features of Indian agriculture. So first, the Indian agriculture have low productivity. Output per hectare are of land is less, because we are producing with traditional agriculture practices or traditional techniques. Disguise and employment. More person are employed than what is optimally required. What means more peoples are engaged in agriculture, but actually they are not required in the required for agriculture practices, but they are seems to be in unemployment, but actually they are disguised unemployed. Dependence on rainfall, owing the deficiency of permanent means of irrigation. This is also a problem, because the irrigation is the basic facility which is essential for the agriculture practices, or our Indian agriculture is mainly dependent on rainfall. So if there is shortage of rainfall, the production is going to decrease. Substance farming, production of self-consumption by the marginal farmers. All farming practices are done by the self-consumption of farmer. The production process or the agriculture practices mainly done for their own consumption, not for the commercialization. Deficient use of modern input owing to poverty of smallholders. Modern inputs or modern technology are not used in Indian agriculture. Small holdings, so the use of mechanization equipment become economically unviable. The holdings, the area of land which are cultivated by Indian farmers are less, very small. So the mechanization of agriculture is not viable in the case of small land areas. So they are not get benefited by the mechanization of agriculture. Landlord tenant conflict, as tenant in most cases are not the owner of soil. The owner of the soil and the tenant which are get the land rent by the rent. There are various conflicted are going to place between landlord and tenant. So backward technology as bulk of holding are small. Technology was backward or the small holdings of the land are very small. So we are discuss these features in elaborated form in next part of our chapter. Problems of Indian agriculture. So in problem, lack of permanent mean of irrigation. As we discussed that the Indian agriculture is only depend on the rainfall. So there is always the problem of irrigation is seen in our agriculture. Still that problem was faced by the Indian farmers. So second, deficiency of finance. For for doing agriculture, there is some input is required, which is purchased by the purchased by help of some resources or money. Or this initial money is not readily available with each and every farmer of our country. So they are dependent on the various finance source for meeting their requirements for purchasing input. So there is a deficiency of finance. So this finance is for purchasing input is not easily available for each and every farmer. Second, conventional outlook. Our outlook of farmers are conventional. Their approach of agriculture is still in the traditional, and the approach is traditional because they are not going to change their agriculture practices. Small and scattered holding. The holding are small, very small, and scattered. They are scattered in a very large area. So there is not possible to use mechanization of agriculture. Mechanization of agriculture by these types. There is no use of mechanization in agriculture on these types of holdings. Exploitative agrarian relationship, as we studied that there is a conflict between tenant and landlord. So this is also going from the past to the present. Lack of organized marketing system. When the crop is prepared or the prepare agriculture output is prepared, there is a huge problem of marketing of that agriculture goods because we have lack of organized market. The farmers are sold their agriculture output in the village or some unregulated market which not giving the just which will not provide the justifiable price of their produce. So this is the problem of Indian agriculture. Or these problems of agriculture is not in in the in the second phase of Indian economic development. Is there are also existed in the present times also. Agrarian reforms or the reforms in agriculture. First, technical reforms. First we take technical reforms. Use of HYV seeds, high yielding variety seeds, to increase the production of Indian agriculture. Use of chemical fertilizer. Use of insecticide and pesticides for crop protection. Scientific farm management practices. Mechanized means of cultivation or the mechanization of agriculture. Use of machine in agriculture. These are the basic reforms which are responsible for agriculture reforms or the increase in output of Indian agriculture during the year 1950 to 1991. By these technical reform, the increase in production of food grain are recorded in our Indian agriculture. Second, we do land reform. It's called institutional reform. Abolition of intermediaries. At the eve of independence, we studied that the Zamindar being play a role of intermediary between British Indian government and the actual farmer who doing farming on the land. So in after the independence, the Indian government abolished the intermediaries. It means they the government of India will establish direct contact with farmer without any intermediaries. They removes all zamindars or intermediary system from agriculture. Regulation of rent. This is all the important part. In During the British era, there is no regulation of rent. Government present the British Indian government is tried to get maximum rent by the help of these intermediaries called zamindars. But the government of India regulate the rent after the independence, or they remove the rents from the Indian agriculture. At present, there is no rent or tax on agriculture, but some states having some small taxes on agriculture, but major states are removing the taxes. Consolidation of holding, it also known as chakbandi in our north indian north indian states. It means consolidation of holdings. The scattered holding will consolidate on one end to promote the benefit of mechanization of agriculture. Ceiling on land holdings are imposed. It means when the government remove intermediaries from the agriculture, the land received from intermediaries, zamindars, or or the huge land was owned by these zamindars. So government imposed land ceiling. An individual can hold a certain land piece of land or the area of land to for its own agriculture, for doing its own agriculture practices. This and the excess land received from this process were distributed among the labor landless farmers. And we started cooperative farming. Cooperative farming means the farmers make cooperation and start doing cooperative farming. It means various farmers will doing farming with cooperation of each other. It reduces the input cost and it makes it it makes it increase the bargaining power of these farmers when they are selling their produce. This is cooperative farming. And general response reforms are expansion of irrigation facilities, provision of credits, provide Regulated market, cooperative market society are being set up by government. Price support policy, it is known as minimum support price, which is declared by government before the agriculture output is, or the agriculture produce is coming to the market for selling. ठीक है. So this is about the general reforms or land reforms. Achievements of agrarian reforms are sprout in crop productivity. It means crop productivity is increased and we get self-sufficiency. Substance rise in acreage. Area under cultivation is increased with these technical reforms. Shift of substance farming to commercial farming. The farmers are moving to commercial farming, substance to commercial. They are producing for selling their agriculture products, not for their self consumption. Change in farmers' output, price related production decisions. Farmers' outlook is changed during this phase of time. Self sufficiency of food grain production was achieved. So these are the achievements. Then we move to industry. Importance of industry in the context of economic growth, importance of public sector in context of industrial development, Industrial Policy Resolution 1956, significance of SSI, small scale industry. So importance of industry in the context of economic growth. As we know that industry is the epicenter of economic growth. Epicenter means from the development of industry, the economic growth is started, or the from the secondary sector. Uh, when we develop the secondary sector, industrial sector, it also increases the primary and tertiary sector. An emergent source of employment. It provides employment to the country. Sources of mechanization mean of farming. Agriculture, when we want to mechanize our agriculture, we required a industry to manufacture these types of mechanical tools and machines for agriculture farming. Industry impart dynamism of growth process. The growth process is impart from industries. When it started, it the growth process in the economy is carried out. Industrial growth lead to growth of civilization. Civilization is also developed through industrial growth, or as we seen in the past, the industrialization will change the entire human civilization. Industrial growth leads to infrastructural growth. Infrastructure was also grow grow by the industrial growth, because for industrial growth we have to develop industrial infrastructure setup. So these are the importance of public sector in the context of industrial development. Lack of capital in private sector, this leads to an obvious reliance on public sector. Generally, the at the time of when we started planning in 1990, the private sector has lack of funds or capital. So the public sector is emphasis on the development of industry by the public fund or by the government resources. Low inducement of investment in private sector owing to deficiency of demand. Yet another factor pointing to the importance of public sector. So the low inducement to the investment in private sector. So private sector, as we stated, that the private sector is always shortage of funds or the resources in comparison of government. So the it is easy to induced investment by the government sector to promote installation. Growth with social justice. Only public sector, not private sector, ensure growth with social justice. Because the motive of public sector is to create welfare of their to its people. But the private sector is the motive of private sector is to generate maximum profit without considering the social welfare. So this is the importance of public sector in context of industrial development. Then we move to our new next topic, industrial policy resolution 1956. It means the policy which is pursued from 1956 to the 19 uh, to the next decades or some next decade in Indian economy. Threefold classification of industries. First is exclusively public sector enterprises. It means this policy divided entire industries in three parts or in three categories. First category is exclusively public sector enterprises. It means in these types of industry only government entities and government enterprises were work or can produce goods and services. Second, industries which could be developed both as public and private sector enterprises, but the private entities have only secondary role. The primary role is played by the government entity. Third, all private sector enterprises are in category 1 and 2. It means it is for private sector. It is open for private sector, or it is open for all the investors or all the sectors. Industrial licensing with a view of regulating industry establishment in the private sector. It established the industrial licensing, or it has the provision of industrial licensing. It means if a individual wants to start an industry, it have to get license from Government of India for establishing a new firm, or if he wants to expand his unit production unit of production. He also required industrial license. Industrial concession with the view of promoting industrial establishment in backward region. There is various types of concession, like concession in tax or in electricity, or on the government will provide land for set upping a industry by a entrepreneur in the backward region of our country. So these types of concession will provided when an entrepreneur will set up a industry in the backward region of our country. Then we move to significance of SSI and small scale industry. So SSI is labor intensive, therefore employment friendly. As we studied that large scale industry use more capital in comparison of SSI. SSI use less capital, more labor, or it's reflected the use of machines. A large scale industry use more machines, more mechanization, and SSI having less mechanization. SSI shows location flexibility, is therefore equity oriented, referring to inter-regional equality. Inter-region equality is ensured by the development of SSI, because large scale industry is generally located on the point of raw material used in its production process, but there is no restriction on small scale industry in this context. So it is inter more important for inter-religion equality. SSI needs small investment and is therefore equity oriented, referring to equity across different sections of society. It means each and every individual of the society will set up SSI, small scale industry, because it requires less capital. It is available with the a major population of our country. So it is more important for equality across the different sections of the society. So this is the small scale. This is all about small scale industry. So small scale industry is important for employment generation in our country, at the past or in the present. So this is small scale industry. Then we move to foreign trade. Indian foreign trade at the time of independence, Indian foreign trade after independence, inward looking trade strategy, or it is import substitution strategy. Indian foreign trade policy trade at the time of independence. At the time of independence, we are exporter of raw material and importer of finished good. Favorable balance of trade. Export are more than imports. Direction trade was restricted, being largely between England and India. Volume of trade was very small. So these are the basic feature at the time of independence. After independence, Indian export and import have tended to rise, but percentage share in international trade has tended to shrink. It means export import value is increased, but the share of Indian export and import or trade was going to shrink or decrease in international trade. Decline in percentage share of agriculture export, the rise in percentage share of manufactured good. At the time of independence, our country is the major exporter of raw material. But when we started planning, when we do industrialization, the share of agriculture export are decreasing throughout the time, and the rise of percentage share of manufactured good was carried out. So direction of trade was become diversified. UAE and China emerged as an important trading partner. At the time of independence, United Kingdom is the major trade partner in our international trade. But after starting planning on industrialization, there the international trade become diversified. We are trading with various other countries of the world. Shifted in trade set, inward looking based on import substitution to outward based on export promotion. So from the year 1950 to 1991, we are on the import substitution policy. Then we moved to outward looking based on export promotion policy. So what is the inward looking trade policy or import substitution? So this policy relies on import substitution and protection of domestic industry through import restriction and the import duties in the area of international trade. It means we are protecting our countries by importing through import restrictions. It means we lived very high import duties over our imports, and we are trying to save our foreign currency by producing the import within the our country. So this term was evolved here. The terms were comes from the word import substitution. It means we have to import substitution. It means we can substitute our imports by producing them in our country. So it have some good impact. High rate of industrial growth with structural transformation. When we are trying to produce that good in our country instead of importing it, then the high rate of industrial growth or with structural transformation was carried out. Diversification of industrial growth. It means various types of industries were set up to avoid the import from rest of the world. New opportunity of investment was comes. It means diversified industries will required. If we want to diversify our industry, we required new opportunities of investment or investors. Bad impact of inward looking trade strategy are growth inefficient public monopolies. The major role played by the public sector during this phase from the year 1950 to 1991. So that for doing import substitution, government was set up the industries for that particular import. So it grow. So it finally it is inefficient by the various problems, or they are inefficient public, they reach to the inefficient public monopolies, or it means they are not working as required at the time of setup. A second, lack of competition implied lack of modernization. If we are protecting our domestic industry, so they have lack of competition, so they are not going to modernize its setups. Third is indiscriminate spread of public enterprises. When we import each and every, when we substitute our import, each and every import, this is going to a indiscriminate spread of public sector enterprises. For each import, our government will set up an enterprises. Fourth, growth of economically unviable state enterprises. For each and every import, when for each and every import we substitute the import by setting the enterprises for it creates uneconomical state enterprises, unviable, economically unviable state enterprises. It means for reducing only import, we are setting industry which cost more than import of that particular commodity. So this is the overall import substitution policy. It means government of India at that phase of time is going to set up more industries for the import substitution, or for avoiding the import from the rest of the world, by spending than more money than that is spent over the import of that particular good. So this is the import substitution strategy, which is replaced by outward looking strategy by the economic reform, in which we are concentrate our industry, or we promote our export to the world with without substituting our imports. So this is all about our second chapter, planning from planning Indian economy from 1950 to 1991. So this is the end of the chapter, and thank you very much.